Welcome to our segment on the North-South divide. I'm Anchor Lars Jane Caray, and today we'll delve into the socio-economic disparities between the northern and southern regions. The North-South divide refers to the economic and developmental gap between the northern and southern regions of various countries, notably prevalent in both developed and developing nations worldwide. In many cases, the northern regions tend to be more economically prosperous with better infrastructure, education, and healthcare system, while the southern regions often face higher poverty rates, inadequate infrastructure, and limited access to basic services. The idea of categorizing countries by their economic and developmental status began during the Cold War with the classification of East and West. The Soviet Union and China represented the East, and the United States and their ally represented the West. The term Third World was coined by states hoping to navigate between the two poles of the Cold War, and ultimately gave birth to the non-aligned movement. These countries were generally less economically developed than their First and Second World counterpart, as some Second World countries joined the First World and others joined the Third World. A new and simpler classification was needed. The capitalist economies were considered First World, and the communist economies were referred to as Second World. And the Third World referred to countries that did not belong to either types of formal economies. The First World became the North, and the Third World became the South. After the Cold War, many see primary global division as being between North and South. This categorization ignores the geographic position of countries, with some countries in the Southern Hemisphere such as Australia and New Zealand being labeled as a part of the North. The Global North. The North is comprised of all First World countries and most Second World countries. All the members of the G8 come from the North, as well as 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. G8 refers to the group of 8 highly industrialized nations. Countries which part of it are France, Germany, Italy, the United Kingdom, Japan, the United States, Canada, and Russia. 5 permanent members of UN Security Council are United States, China, Russia, France, and the United Kingdom. The Northerners have a business, medicine, or education careers. About 95% of the population in countries in the North have enough basic needs and have access to functioning education systems. The Global South. Global South are mainly countries with low incomes and often with marginalized politics or culture. It includes the regions of Latin America, developing Asia including Middle East, Africa, and Oceania. It is one of a family of terms including Third World and Periphery that denotes region outside Europe and North America. The only Asian countries not from the South are Japan and South Korea. An important characteristic of countries in the South is the relatively low GDP and high population. The lack of basic amenities is another common feature of the countries in the South. Less than 5% of the population can access basic needs such as food and shelter. In conclusion, while the North-South divide emerged as a geopolitical and economic construct during the Cold War, it persists as a stark reality shaping global inequalities today. The Global North enjoys significant economic advantages, political influence, and access to resources, while the Global South grapples with poverty, limited infrastructure, and social disparities. However, it is important to recognize that this division is not solely based on geography. Rather, it reflects complex historical, political, and economic dynamics. Addressing the North-South gap requires concerted efforts in international cooperation, equitable development policies, and systemic reforms to ensure a more balanced and sustainable global. And with that, I wrap up my special report on the North-South divide. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I am Lars Jean Caray. And this has been my report on the North-South divide.